what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there tonight. Had yourselves a wonderful Monday, and I hope everyone had a great start to their work week out there. Here to give you some updated information on what's going on with Tropical Storm Debby. Debby made landfall as an 80-mile-per-hour Category 1 hurricane this morning into the Big Mid of Florida. Since then, it's kind of drifted off to the east or east-northeast throughout North Florida. And I would say the center of the storm is actually over probably southeastern portions of Georgia right at this moment. So we're going to go over all the latest information that we have on Debby. We'll talk about the latest info that we have from the National Hurricane Center, the latest advisory. We'll go over all the model guidance, talk about how they still, unfortunately, differ with one another. We'll speak on impacts, folks. We'll speak heavily on impacts. This catastrophic rainfall that's already began that will continue to fall over the next 3 to 4 days across the same area. We'll talk about winds. We'll talk a little bit about storm surge. And I'm going to have a separate timestamp actually up, folks. It's going to be called Mitch's personal take, Mitch's personal opinion on which model I think is going to be right. Okay, so I'll have that up. That's something kind of new we're going to do in this video. I'll have that up for you folks. And then we're going to talk about the ingredients that could support this to re-strengthen off the coast of the southeast back into a hurricane and what could potentially prevent it from doing that. Okay, not going to speak much on steering currents in this video. We've been talking about that to death. Just going to stick with all those things I just mentioned. So timestamps will be up throughout the entire video. Utilize them. Skip ahead to certain portions of the video you want to watch. Don't blame you one bit. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others have an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rocking here. So this is where the storm is right now. It still has that spin to it, cyclonic spin, even though it's weakened. It's a tropical storm now. It continues to weaken with land interaction. This thing is still spinning pretty good. Okay, still a tropical storm. Still mid-level circulation, low-level circulation. But if you actually look at the true structure of the storm, as far as how high these cloud tops are and things like that, you can tell that it's lost a lot of its deep convection. I don't have that pulled up, but just kind of wanted to show you what this storm looks like right now. Of course, this is Georgia, this is Florida down here, and this is the low country of South Carolina. Low-level circulation right here, very, very slowly drifting east-northeast right now, and it'll eventually get off the coast of Georgia. It might slow to a crawl, like 2 or 3 miles per hour sometime over the next, 8 to 12 hours. But this is it spinning away. The reason the screen doles out on you is because the sun is beginning to set here in the southeast. But the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center, I was trying to catch the 7:30, 8 p.m. advisory. It's literally around 7:35 right now. I'll try to jump back to this. But as of the 5 p.m. advisory, it's a 50-mile-per-hour storm. This could drop to a 45-mile-per-hour tropical storm, maybe a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm by the time I'm done with this video, as there's a new advisory about to drop any minute now. But it is right now a 994 millibar low. Of course, the pressure has risen. The more it rises, the more this is pretty much a sign of a weakening system. And there it is, moving northeast at 6 miles per hour. It is very, very slow right now. Okay, zoom Earth. Let's see if we got anything new from this. I think this is still the 5 p.m. advisory. So it's probably going to weaken into a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm sometime tonight, 2 a.m. And then by 2 p.m. Tuesday, it's trying to say that this system has still not fully moved off the coast of Georgia by tomorrow afternoon. 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm from 2 p.m. Tuesday to 2 a.m. Wednesday, still a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm Debby. Then from 2 a.m. to 2 a.m. Wednesday to 2 p.m. Wednesday, tongue twister, starts to strengthen a little bit, goes up 5 miles per hour based off the National Hurricane Center latest forecast. All right, and then from 2 p.m. Wednesday to 2 a.m. Thursday, this is only 12 hours, guys. It barely moves. How far out here does this get? This is where the Gulf Stream is, okay? Maybe even a little bit more further, in this area, okay? If it kind of stays tucked into, this area right here, that's kind of the shelf waters. It's a little bit cooler in this area. Right off the coast of the southeast, well, I would say a little bit further off the coast of the southeast, you have the Gulf Stream. It's much warmer in this area. So we'll talk more on that deeper into the video. But 2 a.m. Thursday, 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm. Then it could be a 60-mile-per-hour, back to a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm by 2 p.m. Thursday, guys. It's Monday evening. We're still talking about this Thursday evening, and this potentially still hasn't made landfall yet as a secondary landfall. This is still just chilling off the coast of the southeast, off the coast of South Carolina. And then, of course, it moves inland, and now most of North Carolina in this cone. This is going to potentially bring a lot of impacts in North Carolina and eventually impacts the Virginia. And now this goes the center of the cone goes all the way up to Delaware, guys. But New York City now in the cone, Allentown, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Scranton. I mean, all the way up in the southern sections of New York, Long Island, southwestern Connecticut is in the cone now. Okay, so now this is starting to spread out. Here's a zoomed out look at this. And the actual more classic look from the National Hurricane Center. See if we got the new update. We don't. This is kind of the more classic cone that you're probably used to seeing. There it is. It really just chills around South Carolina for a couple of days and finally gets some steering to it and starts to head back up the eastern seaboard. Well, up the eastern seaboard. I say back like it's already been there before, but finally gets some forward motion to it and begins to affect everybody up the I-95 corridor. Now, the latest watches, warnings, and advisories that we have. The thing that has changed is we now have tropical storm watches up for Myrtle Beach, the Grand Strand, Georgetown. Actually, might have tropical storm warnings now, but anyways, that'll change. Anyways, the warnings regardless. Up to Wilmington, even north of Wilmington, tropical storm watches up, and now we have flood watches up for all the eastern Carolinas. We have tropical storm warnings up for Charleston and all of these areas. So it's definitely on, guys. We have flash flood warnings ongoing right now for multiple counties in this really darker shade of red right here. But this kind of just flat out red color, those are tropical storm warnings. And then where you see that yellow, that's actually tornado watches that are right now ongoing for the low country of South Carolina. So it's definitely on. The impact of this is starting to really move in South Carolina now. So let's go over the latest model, guys. We're going to initialize this for tomorrow morning. So this is saying, the GFS is saying this is 1,000 millibar low by tomorrow morning. Still technically over landmass over Georgia. As we are starting to move into tomorrow midday, it actually tries to jolt this north. If this happens, this would bring some very heavy rain into the Midlands of South Carolina tomorrow. But then jolts it back off the coast of Georgia, kind of back eastward. And it's just dumping a ton of rainfall still into southeast Georgia, eastern and central sections of South Carolina. And then it gets fully off the coast. And what is it about to do? It's a 995 millibar low tropical storm off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina, right around right here on the latest GFS Wednesday morning. Then watch as it begins to move back closer to the coastline and then continues to stick to its guns with wanting to basically it's heading east, right? And then it jolts this actually not just west, but back southwest into the Georgia coastline, like just north of Jacksonville. Okay, and then if this was to happen, this would bring rainfall all the way back through Georgia, Thursday into Friday, would bring rainfall all the way to Atlanta, and eventually bring rain maybe all the way into Alabama. And then this would just stick with us and finally head on off. Okay, I can tell you the GFS is an outlier. It has been for about a day and a half now. It doesn't fall in the National Hurricane Center cone, and it's just been doing that for a while. But I can tell you, I don't have the hurricane models pulled up in this video. The hurricane models like the idea of that too. I don't think we should totally just ignore the GFS, but it's an outlier right now. All right, we take a look at the European. We'll initialize this for tomorrow morning. 997 millibar low still. I think it could be a little weaker than that. But this kind of gets fully off the coast of Georgia sometime tomorrow, big day. Midday, not big day. I know I'm good for a couple tongue twisters a little bit, messing up some words of video. Tomorrow evening, this is off the coastline of Savannah, Beaufort. 994, it gets to a 992. And then by Wednesday morning, this is back down to a 989 millibar low. Now, I want you to note, guys, this is getting pretty far off the coastline of the southeast. This is now starting to ooze into the Gulf Stream waters, which the Gulf Stream, I would say the sea surface temperatures are probably more so in the upper 80s. It's much warmer. If you don't know much about the Gulf Stream, just look it up on Google. It basically, and I'm going to show you a great representation of it when I show you the sea surface temperatures here towards the end of the video. But it's basically just an area of warmer water that's a couple hundred miles off the coast of the southeast. Okay, but you continue to move this forward here. We get into Wednesday midday. This deepens into a 987 millibar low based off the euro, the 12Z euro. And then this gets it all the way to a sub 85 millibar low sometime Wednesday evening. This would tell me that this is getting back close to Category 1 hurricane status. And then This is what I'm saying. I think we could get a little bit of a break if the Georgia is right. If the European is correct, we could get a break in Georgia and the Carolinas with rain for a period, especially further inland. But then we start to get into Wednesday night, into Thursday morning. This starts to near that northeast coastline of South Carolina, southeast coastline, North Carolina, and then ultimately finally makes a secondary landfall sometime Thursday morning as a 984 millibar tropical storm, strong tropical storm, low-end Category 1 hurricane sometime Thursday morning. In fact, a lot of people ask, Mitch, are you going to chase this? If the European scenario plays out, or is looking like it's going to play out, I will absolutely chase this Thursday morning, for sure. But this would re-throw back in a ton of moisture for back west into the Carolinas. I mean, look at this heavy rain into the PD of South Carolina, the central sections of North Carolina, into the Piedmont of North Carolina. This would be a corridor of extremely heavy rain. So this is Thursday afternoon. Could it be a little bit of a lull, maybe Wednesday? After it being pretty active, what I think is going to be pretty active tomorrow. Wednesday could be a little bit of a lull as the system's off the coast of the southeast. And then Thursday, we could ramp it all up again into Friday. And of course, this is going to continue to move north. And we can actually show you guys what it could do as it moves into the northeast and mid-Atlantic. And here it comes, bringing a lot of impacts Friday evening into the mid-Atlantic. A lot of strong winds, a lot of heavy rain throughout the entire northeast. I mean, and this thing's having a hard time to weakening because it's probably getting a boost from a jet streak that's riding over areas of the northeast too. This is kind of boosting this low pressure even though it's riding over land. This could bring power outages to the northeast, New England. This is still a 997 millibar low, ton of rainfall. It's just moving a lot quicker than it will be if compared to the southeast and what they're going to be dealing with over the next few days. And then, of course, this could bring a lot of impacts to Atlantic Canada sometime this weekend. Something we got to watch. Now, the latest 18Z Euro is running, and I think it's in range where I can show you. And here it is. So this is actually the latest European run that we have, and I was hoping this was going to be fully loaded by the time I got to this time frame here. But here it goes. What's the latest Euro show? 996 millibar low Tuesday afternoon. And then we're getting into Wednesday morning. It's a 992, well off the coast of the southeast. 990, 988, 987. And it's a little bit further south and a little bit weaker off the latest 18Z Euro. Okay, a little bit further south, but still a sub 990 millibar low, high-end tropical storm, low-end Category 1 hurricane making landfall kind of around Georgetown. And then it slings this back pretty far to the west and dumps a lot of heavy rainfall even back into the Midlands of South Carolina. And of course, we got to watch what happens after that. So that's actually technically the latest European run. Icon is still the worst case scenario, guys. Gets this well off the coast of South Carolina Wednesday morning. Deepens this to a sub 970 millibar low hurricane. That's a Category 2 hurricane Wednesday night. And ultimately makes a landfall into Myrtle Beach as a 969 millibar Category 2 hurricane sometime Thursday morning. That's the worst case scenario. The Icon has continued to show the worst case scenario. Is it going to be correct? I think it's a little bit too high end. But we have to watch. We have to see how much the structure of this storm is still put together once it gets fully off the coast of the southeast. But the latest European ensemble here, this makes up 51 members. Every single member gets this off the coast of the southeast. And watch how all these members, as we're getting into Wednesday evening, begin to turn and go back to the Carolina coastline. And then it really scatters after that. We got some members getting all the way back into central South Carolina. So a couple members going back into Georgia. But a lot of these members are kind of circled up around here, kind of the South Carolina, North Carolina border. And of course, wherever the center of the storm goes, that's where all the rain will go, right? Of course, rain is far away from the actual center of the storm, but of course, the shield of the rainfall is going to move with the center of the storm. So there's some pretty strong members in here. You know, these greens and even a couple yellows. This is where, you know, we can get to hurricane status where you see a couple of these yellow stragglers right in here. And then, of course, these eventually all kind of start to move back into the northeast and head on up the eastern seaboard. So as far as rainfall totals, let's see if we got a new graphic from this. We do not. As far as rainfall totals, still that area in pink that you see, that's where still over 20 inches of rain is forecast. The burgundy darker red colors, that's 16 to 20 inches of rain. The bright red, that's 12 to 16 inches of rain. And then the orange, that's 8 to 12 inches of rain up the Raleigh. Catastrophic, historic rainfall totals are forecast, guys. It's already adding up out there, but it's just the beginning. I mean, we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg with this rainfall right now. Still pretty bad. In fact, you look at, the radar right now, nasty weather's already, the heaviest rain has not even made it, I would say, into the low country of South Carolina, guys. The center of the storm is right here, okay? Right into here. Jacksonville getting hit hard, Brunswick and Savannah getting some nasty storms. We got to watch out for these feeder bands right in here. So we continue just to get a closer look at South Carolina, areas of Georgia and North Carolina. Folks, Charleston, that's over 20 inches of rain forecast on top of what you have already got today. Going for 6 to 7 inches of rain and around the Columbia area. There's probably going to be a sharp cutoff from like the western side of Lake Murray than the eastern side. But either way, Charlotte could get a few inches. I'm telling you, up here could change a lot. Let's take actually kind of a larger look at the Carolinas. Up here could change a lot, guys. Right up here in this area. We just got to continue to watch this. This could increase if something like the euro is correct. Okay? Back here could increase if something like the euro is correct, especially if some of those members are correct with this getting slung back into South Carolina. But folks, I'm telling you, take these rainfall totals you are seeing serious. Wilmington, 15 inches of rain. Well, 12 to 15, I would say. Florence, over a foot of rain possible. Fayetteville, 10 to 12 inches of rain possible. Raleigh, 8 to 10. A lot of rain on the way. And then you continue to take this up the eastern seaboard. For example, we'll look at the mid-Atlantic here. A lot of rain. Let's go. This is all the way out to Sunday morning, August the 11th. Several inches of rain. Anywhere from 5 to 7 inches of rain from up the I-95 corridor, from D.C. up to Baltimore, Delaware, New Jersey, southeastern, eastern PA, New York City, Long Island. They're calling for 7 to 8 inches of rain out in Long Island. Lot of rain on the way, folks. And then the risk of flash flooding is high. In the pink area, that's where you have a rare high risk of flash flooding. That means there's a 70% chance of flash flood guidance being exceeded within 25 miles of any given location in this pink area. A 40% chance of that in the red area and a 15% risk of that in the yellow area. All right. Winds, I'm going to go over winds as far as what the National Weather Service is saying. They're saying along the coastal regions, there is a pretty much a 40 to 50% chance to see tropical storm force winds. 40 mile per hour winds or higher along the South Carolina coastline. I don't even like showing this much because it always seems like it's a tick behind. We are definitely going to see tropical storm force conditions into the eastern counties and of the Carolinas, basically, over the next few days, no doubt here. And then if you look at the actual National Weather Service forecast, as far as what they're saying, it's pretty obvious the National Weather Service, National Hurricane Center favors the euro because it takes the core of these winds right up against Myrtle Beach. Okay, so to me that tells me that they favor a European scenario here with where this is going to make landfall, how much it could potentially strengthen. So in this kind of orangish red color here, that's 60, 65, 70 mile per hour wind gusts that are possible just off the coastline. If you look really closely, it says like 44 to 50 mile per hour winds up against Myrtle Beach here. I could see this increasing. I could see this entire area, seeing some pretty strong winds along with extremely heavy rainfall, something like the euro plays out. This could get tossed up that way and eventually this could get up this way, somewhere in this area right here. Okay. So if you look at storm surge, latest about storm surge, and let's see if we can get a new update from the National Hurricane Center. We do. So it's still a 50 mile per hour tropical storm right now, but let's see if we can get a new cone from the National. Nope. Nothing has really changed. So I did just want to kind of go back and look at that here for a second. But if you look at storm surge, 2 to 4 feet of storm surge from the mouth of the St. Mary's River in Georgia all the way up to Cape Fear, North Carolina. This could increase. I could see this increasing above 4 feet in this area. We just have to watch. Now I'm going to show you the model that I think is correct. I think the European is correct. I favor this model. And let's see if we have the actual 18Z run up yet. Let's see if we got the entire run though. So it looks like we do. So I'm going to look at the 18Z euro. Okay. And the time, I'm not going to try to mention all the time frames, but the time frame's up here, Tuesday, August 6th, 8 a.m. So that's tomorrow morning, right? Here it comes. We're getting into 8 p.m. tomorrow, slinging a lot of banding features into the South Carolina coastline, all the way up into Columbia, Rock Hill, Augusta. And then, like I said, we get into Wednesday morning. There could be a bit of a break. A little bit of a break. Low pressure way off here. There's not as much rain going into South Carolina. And then as we're getting into Wednesday evening, it could begin to increase again as this low potentially gets closer to the South Carolina, North Carolina coastline. Myrtle Beach begins to see some intense outer bands. And then the core of this system, however strong it is, begins to have an opportunity to move back into the South Carolina coastline sometime Thursday morning. And this slings a ton of rainfall back into South Carolina. For example, this is Columbia. Look at Columbia around 11 a.m. Thursday. It is raining like crazy. This rain gets all the way back to Greenville, Spartanburg. So it's something we're watching. It's something that I'm starting to favor here. It makes a hard hook back left and back west and brings some nasty conditions into South Carolina. And then eventually gets into North Carolina. And speaking a little bit on up the road, I'm going to kind of jump this back to the 18Z here. This only goes 90 hours out, so just bear with me with that. I can't go but so far out. But there it is. This dumps a lot of rain on Charlotte too, and then continues to move the remnants of this right over Charlotte Friday morning. So, some pretty wild scenarios from this. And, if you look at the latest 18Z as far as wind swath, look at this. Bring some very strong winds all the way into the Midlands of South Carolina Thursday. Look at these winds into the Sandhills of North Carolina. That's a 52 mile per hour wind gust into Charlotte, 60 into Columbia. This is something we have to watch here. How is this thing going to really kick back? It kind of favors the GFS, but it just does it a little bit later and a little bit further north. But that's something we got to watch as far as these wind speeds, guys. And then, as far as rainfall, we can, bump this and look at the 18Z. Remember, this only goes 90 hours out. So this only goes out to Friday morning. But this dumps a ton of rain back into the Midlands of South Carolina. So it's such a scenario we need to watch. And this is, I'm kind of favoring something like this to a degree. Because I don't know. That's just something that I'm starting to think I'm really latch on to the idea of happening. But one thing that could prevent this from really big-time strengthening off the coast of the southeast is the shelf waters right up against the coastline here are much cooler than these winds a couple hundred miles off the coastline. The water's right up against the coastline, probably in the low 80s, maybe upper 70s, because all the cloud cover and rain from this landfalling, tropical system, Debby, has kind of cooled this body of water right here. I know that circled land too, but this body of water right here. So Levi, if you watch Tropical Tidbits, his name's Levi. He makes probably the best videos on the tropics there is. He's the king of making tropics videos. But he mentioned this. I feel like the low is going to have to get out here to really re-intensify. That's going to take you getting over the Gulf Stream, which is a couple hundred miles, a few hundred miles off the coast of the southeast in certain areas. That will be where it enters 29, 30, 31 degrees Celsius sea surface temperatures, which is, mid to upper 80s in Fahrenheit. Is it going to be able to get here? That's a big question. But one thing that I can tell you that is this system is working with, regardless, can it get its structure together, take advantage of those really warm waters, and kind of get a very compact, moist area of air around it. Basically create a moist core around the system. And I really think this is going to have to get over the Gulf Stream to fully do that. If it does not, it's just not going to get its act together, which would be a good thing. But I can tell you the upper wind pattern does favor strengthening. Air is getting pushed out away from this system, right? Being dispersed outward, a little bit of an anticyclonic kind of divergence flow out here. So a real low shear environment. It's just how far off the coast of the southeast is going to get. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Stay safe out there, and we'll continue to pump out these updates. Talk to you soon.